from this book, which is an old book, but I always like to go back to it because Eckhart Tolle just absolutely smashed it, crushed it in this book with some pockets of insights. So we're talking about being right, being wrong. You know, when someone thinks that they're right and you're wrong, and in order for me to be right, you have to be wrong, which is a very egocentric perspective that kind of validates one's own sort of mental position, which stabilizes, you know, a false identity of, you know, their false sense of self. So, used in such a way, religion becomes ideology and creates illusory sense of superiority as well as division and conflict between people. In the service of the truth, religious teachings represent signposts or maps left behind by awakened humans to assist you in spiritual awakening. That is to say, becoming free of disidentification with form. There is only one absolute truth, and all other truths emanate from it. When you find that truth, all your actions will be in alignment with it. Human action can reflect the truth. Human action can reflect the truth, or it can reflect illusion. Can the truth be put into words? Yes, but the words, of course, not it. They only point to it. The truth is inseparable from who you are. Yes, you are the truth. You are the truth. If you look for it elsewhere, you'll only be deceived every time. The very being that you are is truth. Jesus tried to convey that when he said, I am the way and the truth and the life. These words uttered by Jesus were one of the most powerful and direct pointers to the truth. I am the way, the truth, and the life. If understood correctly, if misinterpreted, however, they become a great obstacle. Jesus speaks of the most innermost I am, the essence of identity of every man and woman, every life form. In fact, he speaks of the life that you are. Some Christians, mystics, have called it Christ within. Buddhists call it the Buddha nature, or Hindus call it the Atman, the inner dwelling of God. When you are in touch with that dimension within yourself and being in touch with it is your natural state, not some miraculous achievement. All your actions and relationships will reflect the oneness with all life that you sense deep within. This is love. Laws of commandments, rules, and regulations are necessary for those who are cut off from who they are, the truth within. They prevent the worst excess of their ego, and often they don't even do that. Love and do what you will, said Saint Augustine. Words cannot get much closer to the truth than that. All right, so just, again, you are the truth. You are the truth, and, you know, even Einstein's truth, you know, the law of relativity, E equals mc squared, all these equations, even Einstein's truth has no sort of truth within your own experience if you don't give a truth. So if you don't give anything, you know, you decide what's true or not. There is no universal truth. You know, there are facts, but what's true is your own personal experience of what's happening within you and how you define that framework or bundles of thoughts that kind of confine you in that truth. Even Einstein's equations have no truth if you don't give it truth. So if I believe in a teapot, and I believe that the teapot is my God, and I pray to the teapot, I get blessed by the teapot. I bless the teapot. I wake up every day. I'm grateful for the teapot, and that teapot makes me a better person. It makes me go out there and thrive and just connect and just become the best person I can be. Then who is anyone to tell me that teapot isn't my God? Who is anyone to tell me that their God is the right God when the teapot is making me a better person? It's my God. It's what I believe in, and it's my truth. You know, you get to a certain point where you stop kind of pushing your agenda onto other people because everyone's truth is their truth. You know, I can't, you know, and that's why the perfect religion is your religion. That is the perfect religion. Your truth is the truth. When someone pushes an agenda on you, it's almost like that they need validation for their own mental position in how they define their truth. So by getting your sort of validation, it reinforces their own reality, their own truth. That's right. So a lot of the times people it's evident when people express their truth how shaky their truth is, because for me, when someone is established in their truth, they're not trying to convince people about what's true, what's false, because they're established in their truth. To them, a person established in their truth, peace is more important than being right, being wrong. Because what's up, Richard? Being at peace and having peace is more valuable than being right, being wrong. Being right, being wrong is a very egocentric mental position that needs your ego to be validated because you've invested on a certain perspective and you're so emotionally invested in it that if someone challenges that, it would defeat your identity. And if it defeats, what's up, man? And if it defeats your identity, you wouldn't know who you are. And if you don't know who you are, then your nervous system will go into shock. And that's why when you challenge someone, it will trigger their flight or fight response most of the time if you challenge their mental position. And when you trigger their flight or fight response, it's because their ego has been threatened. Their mental position has been threatened because you're like, no, that's wrong. You're wrong. And it's like, I'm not wrong, because now it's like everyone's watching me. I get like, I feel embarrassed. I don't know how to kind of, process that. So my ego becomes more superior, and then I can get abusive. I can get violent. I can cry. Some people cry when you kind of confront them within their own truth, because it's their flight or fight response. They feel socially threatened. Their ego is defeated. And then they go into this ego repair mode. And in their ego repair mode, they can become very violent. They can become very abusive. All their trauma comes out. All their suppression comes out. And this is what happens when you argue with a type 0 mindset. I have a hypothesis in different mindsets, because it's good to understand when you should really go deep with someone in these conversations, and when you should really understand who you're talking to. Because if you're talking to a type 0 mindset, and it's got nothing to do with, I'm more evolved than you. It just got to do with where they're operating from. It's not like a hierarchy of, hey, I'm type 3, you're type 0. No, it's just where are you operating from? How deep can we go in our conversations? Are you going to be receptive to what I express? Are you going to be able to absorb what I stress to? Or are you just going to give me some programmed answer? A type 0 mindset is very egocentric. It's very narcissistic. It's very self-consumed. They are the result of everything that they've gone through. They can't offer you nothing more than what they've experienced. And if they've only experienced trauma, pain, lack of awareness, ego, well, they're at a default setting. And a lot of the times they'll agree with you. They may not agree with you. It's yes, no answers. All ego, no soul. Well said, Alien Superstar. Absolutely. A type 1 mindset will start to ask why. So if you point out to a type 1 mindset, hold on a minute, let's just unpack that a bit. They'll think and they'll go, you know what, you might be right. Let's talk about that. Type 1 mindset asks why. They ask why, because they've got a sense of self-awareness. Because of their self-awareness, they can deconstruct the program, right? Because they are more connected to awareness. And sometimes it fluctuates, sometimes it shifts, but if you're given the right space, you can have a beautiful, in-depth conversation with a type 1 mindset. Type 2 mindset has found inner truth. They don't have any more questions to ask because they have found something so peaceful within them. They've almost not given up, but they've almost de-associated with trying to kind of even prove anything, not to prove anything in an egotistic way. Well, they're just content. They're content. They're just in the flow. You can have amazing conversations. They don't care if you talk, they are just established in their truth. They're blessed. Christ consciousness, Buddhahood, Nirvana. Type 2. Type 3 mindset is someone that can awaken a type 0 mindset. And that takes a lot of patience. That takes a lot of dedication, and you have to be at a service to others. Because if you've got the ability to make a type 0 mindset ask the question why, well, now you're helping elevate the collective consciousness. And a lot of the times, you've got a lot of big philosophers, teachers, people that can really deliver this information and they can really awaken people. That's like a type 3. Type 4, I don't know. This is just a hypothesis. Maybe you can tell me what a type 4 is, and you can build on top of this hypothesis. But the point is, I remember when I was in Thailand, and I was there with a friend of mine, and I was training, I was teaching CrossFit. It was around 15 years ago, and the waiter came, and I was sitting there. My friend of mine was very, very emotionally intelligent, and the waiter came, and I started talking about these things because the conversation went on to somewhat it's kind of like a deep subject, and then he kind of looked at me, and he didn't give me the energy or the response that I guess not that I expected it, but I invested so much in that conversation. He didn't really know how to respond to it. It was just a very short answer. And then my friend turned around and said, sometimes you'll feel robbed of your energy when you invest too much energy in a conversation and the person cannot process that conversation. They don't have it, it's not within their orbit or their gravitational pull to take that information and really give you something. It's almost like playing tennis with someone that's not at your level of caliber of playing tennis with. You're not really going to have a good game playing tennis, something like that. And it really made me think that, okay, well, I should only be investing my time with people that can really process what I'm saying when I go into these deep conversations. And a lot of the times it's with you. It's with the community. I don't really talk like this outside of this community. A lot of people would freak out because I'm a builder, and I would go out there and build completely in my ego state when I'm out there building. They would never even like. Sometimes I had a friend of mine today. He actually hasn't seen me in a while, and he actually followed me on TikTok. He's a big developer, very successful. And he came and saw me. He goes, "Man, I watch your lives. I like everything because you are the most." And he started giving me a lot of good energy. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but he's very complimentive, and so that is really nice to get that type of feedback. But yeah. It's because of the community I talk like this, and it's good to have people like this to kind of express, because we and you get what I mean. You get what I mean. My energy needs to be nourished, absolutely, and replenished, absolutely. It has to be, like, for me to come out, do this for free, give a lot of energy. I have to get a lot back, because I don't do this for money. I don't ask for gifts. I give my time, but what I'm doing is I'm also nourishing myself in this platform, because as I'm expressing, I'm also learning and rewiring my brain to stay primed within this level of awareness. And I get to do the breath work with you guys. So I am being selfless, but I'm also being a little bit selfish too. So I'm just putting that out there. But being right, being wrong, it's a big thing. And especially, Daryl says, today I got angry because many fruit and veg shops are closing for a summer break. Well, man, that's fair enough. That's a legitimate reason to get angry. That's a legitimate reason to be angry, because you need fruits and veggies, man. Hey, Light, what's up? So being right, being wrong, right? And sometimes we find ourselves in these conversations where someone will be so, like, I'm not going to say that, but I'll have interactions where someone is so embedded within their sort of religion, or they're so embedded within their perspective. They have such a limited mindset, and they're not very open-minded, that when they're projecting this, no, you're wrong type of energy onto me, not in those words, I can feel that on a visceral level before it becomes a narrative and I express what I think. So and this is what meditation does, it allows me to have, not all the time, but most of the time, it allows me to have space so I can control my nervous system, because I used to be a very angry person. I wasn't angry, but when I got triggered, I had a lot of pain, suffering, got bullied. There's so many reasons, a lot of people, that I couldn't control my emotions. So let me rephrase that. I could not control my emotions when I got triggered. I was very, very, very dysregulated, and the verbal diarrhea that used to come out of my mouth would just absolutely leave this disgusting residue of pain. And it was only like 6 months ago that I had another massive tantrum, which actually taught me a lot. But over time and over doing these sessions with you guys and meditations and breathwork, I've got a lot better. Hey buddy, how you doing, man? I've got a lot more control over my nervous system now, because my perspective has changed. A lot because I'm in this space and I'm continuously working on myself. But the point is that a lot of the times when I felt threatened or my ego felt threatened, my nervous system would get so dysregulated. But you got to remember, when I got angry, it wasn't because I was angry. It was because the projection, the energy I was projecting beyond the words or the narrative or the circumstance was a lot of hurt, was a lot of pain, was a lot of suffering. But I didn't realize that at the time because I was still in such a type 0 mindset that it was just like, who are you to talk to me like that? I felt like I had this sense of, superiority, not that I'd walk around like I'm better than you, but whenever I felt threatened, whenever I felt like my boundaries were crossed, I wasn't even aware. Like I was only there to pick up the pieces once I had kind of, verbally expressed this disgusting energy out and afflicted everyone around me. I would be left with the residue going, right, okay, that happened. And then I would justify, I would blame, I would come to some sort of understanding to desperately stabilize my nervous system because I didn't know how to process the residue. So it was easier to blame you and it was easier to justify it. So then my ego could kind of find a perspective and stabilize the nervous system, which was, hey, Michaela, which was just suppressing the, disgusting pain body energy. So then it would loop back again. So it would keep looping back over and over again. And it does loop, like the frequency is not as frequent now. It's still there, but when it loops now, I'm very aware of it because I've got this motivation to really deconstruct it and weaken that charge. And it's thanks to you guys, and it's thanks to these lives, and it's thanks to the space that I'm in now, where else I would have never been that motivated to do the work. And that's what doing the work means. Like a lot of people used to say, do the work, but I really didn't understand what doing the work means. But now I understand at 41 years old, doing the work is reconditioning yourself so you can learn to regulate your nervous system, because my nervous system was very, very dysregulated. So again, my point is that now I understand at this point in time that when I was getting angry, again, when you're in the circumstance and you're interacting, and for whatever reason, like I just want you guys to go back to a point where you got angry or you got activated or you got triggered. Like it's very like from a very type 0 mindset, and I'll go into what the mindsets are in a second for the person that asked me. So from a type 0 mindset, you're always going to, once you kind of get activated, you're not aware. Your awareness is suppressed. So you're not actually even there. Thank you. If you're saying I look good for my age, I'll take that. So you're not even there. So once you get projected, it's the nervous system that gets so hyperactive, overactive. Stress hormones are flooded into your body. Flight or fight response is activated. And it's like a pressure cooker. The energy comes up and then you are projecting it. But you're projecting it. The projection is relative. It's circumstantial, of course, because whatever the circumstances, hey, that's mine. That's like yours. Oh, where's this? Where's that? You did this, and how dare you? Like whatever the narrative is, it's gonna be relative to the circumstance. But going beyond that, and this is the way I look at it now. Going beyond that, my nervous system was just so my nervous system had suppressed the flight or fight risk. Like, how do I put this and articulate this in a simple way? I had been activated throughout my life, and the flight or fight response had been activated so many times throughout my life, just like many of us, that it never got a chance to finish its cycle. It never got a chance to regulate. So I had a lot of blocked energy, stuck energy, and the frequency of that energy was so intense that only when I felt this intense charge would it come out. Only when I felt this intense charge. So it really only got activated when you were angry and you were projecting your anger onto me, and that intensity brought out my intensity, and then that became a fucking recipe for disaster. And then at the end of it, I would always ruin my relationships. I would ruin the vibe. I would ruin my own sort of well-being. Then I was left with the residue, and then the justifications came out, the ego came out, the blaming came out, and then I would just suppress it and I'd go on with my life, and then it would happen again. And the universe would always put me in circumstances where it was exposing me to this loop. But I was so unaware that I'd always blame it on my circumstance, and I'd always blame it on the people around me, because I was operating from that little level of consciousness. I was so identified with my identity that I personalized everything. That's the word I'm looking for. I personalized everything. And because I personalized everything, I limited my awareness and confine myself to the little identity that I thought I was, right? Today, I look at it and I think I was very unaware of how dysregulated I was and how much intense energy that I was carrying around at that frequency. And I forgive myself, and I forgive I apologize, and I really put my heart out there, and I say I'm sorry to everyone that I hurt, I offended along the way, that along my journey when I was very unaware, because I really didn't have the skill set to know better. I really didn't. I wish I had the skill set. And some relationships I won't get back. Some relationships, I've made amends with. But the most important relationship is with myself. So forgiving yourself is very, very important, right? You have to forgive yourself, because you're always kind of rebirthing into a new light. You're always, it's the metamorphosis of the old you into the new you. So I think by having that motivation to always do better, then that is fucking fantastic. Because at the end of the day, again, they weren't mistakes, they were mistakes, as one of the members said in the chat. Yeah, that's right, Charlie, absolutely. So then, hey Ash, what's up, bro? So then today, now, all I want to do is learn how to regulate my nervous system. And in Tibet, it reminds me of a proverb. Tibetans say that a true miracle isn't a rocket in the sky. A true miracle is one who can liberate a negative emotion. Because when you are an emotional master, meaning you can master your emotions, that is a miracle. That is a miracle, because that is one of the most difficult, challenging things to do in this life, and 99% of people will fail miserably. Women are a lot better at men than this. A lot of men that are very have a lot more feminine energy are a lot more better at this. Masculine men that are the fire type, they fail miserably at this. They've got the hardest controlling that inner fire, because for whatever reason, the fire within them, that personality type, it is very difficult to put that out. And sometimes they almost need to be with a water sign for very soft feminine to kind of neutralize that energy. Ego, man. Also ego. I'm putting it into these water signs, but at the end of the day, it's fucking ego. You're right. So now, the point is, now, if I feel that I'm in a conversation and this person is like, no, I'll give you an example, right? Today, what happened today, real time. I put an ad out, and I put an ad out for $300 for someone to come help me on one of my work sites. And I said, it's 8 hours work, lunch break, $300, laborer needed. So this uni kid, he applied for it, and I said, no worries. So the uni kid rocks up, and then my site foreman, who's my site manager, because I'm a builder, he's there instructing the kid what to do, and we're doing some landscaping, and he's a uni kid, and he's got the rake, and I'm watching him with the rake, and he's like this. And I'm thinking to myself, he's a young adult here. He's meant to be a laborer. He's agreed, and he's raking like he's taking the piss, like he doesn't even want to be there. And I didn't say anything. I thought maybe he's got autism. Maybe I thought there was something wrong with him. And then at the end of the day, my site foreman goes, he left early. He didn't even do the hours. So now the app's called Airtasker, in which kind of mediates these agreements where you need kind of workers. So then he's asked for his money. And I said, hold on a minute, mate. I said, Andrew said that you left early. He found you at the back leaning on your rake. I saw you. You put no effort in. And now you want the full amount. I go, that's a little bit unfair. And so I emailed the app. And I said, look, I only want to give him $150. He's not worth the $300, because I could have given, and I've got the money. It's not about the money. And I'm not trying to rip anyone off, but it's the principle, right? And the app said, look, can you guys just negotiate it within each other and find a figure that you're happy with? And then, so he messages me today before I got on here, and he's like, hey man, look, I'll take the 1.5 hours off. Can you just give me the $230? I go, hold on a minute, man. I'm happy to give you the money, but just be honest that you put no effort in, you slacked, and you stuffed me around. And Andrew found you at the back leaning on the rake, and it's a bit unfair. But just be genuinely honest that you're taking the piss. And he's like, nah, man. He goes, I gave it my hardest. I can't tell you if it wasn't good enough for you, then I'm sorry, but that's the way I work. And I said to myself, if that's the way you work, you do not call yourself a laborer. I go, do not come to a building site because you're a young adult. You're a young man, and I didn't criticize him. I go, you're pushing that rake like you're an 80-year-old man. It was just like, I couldn't see it. It was actually painful to watch that happen. And he goes, oh, well, make me an offer then. He goes, but I can't accept anything less than 230. I go, man, be fair. I go, be honest, and I'll give you $200. I go, just admit to me that you were slacking off, and I'll give you the $200. Just be honest. He goes, no, because I wasn't slacking off. I gave it my best. But he was very polite. And I could see myself getting frustrated. But at the end of the day, I wanted to just give him feedback to be a better worker, because I just thought, hey, other people could have worked. Like you can't come on a work site, give it 30% and expect to get the full amount. The world doesn't work like that. Where I come from, it doesn't work like that, because I'm the type of person, if I hire you and you're a cleaner and you clean my house, and you've got an agreement to clean my house. If I come back, you clean my house, you do my washing, you go above and beyond, I will do anything for you. You're the type of person I want to work with, because that level of effort will make you successful and it'll build relationships. If I come home and you slack off and you haven't done much, then, whether you're cleaning a house or whether you're doing, no matter what you do in life, if you go that little bit above for someone, in work life or in any relationship, you will be so appreciated and you will succeed, because people want to work with people that give it a little bit more effort. And if you do something, you should do it with class, do it with style, do it and leave an imprint on people saying, no one will do it better than me, sort of thing. That's where I come from. That's the way it should be done. But anyway, at the end of it, I said, look, I'm gonna deal with Airtasker because blah blah blah. But turns out I stayed calm and I go, look, I was only, he wanted $230. I gave him $300. I go, look, man, I don't want your money. This isn't about the money. You can have the $300 because you're a uni student. You probably need it. And I don't want to take that money off you because I don't want you to think I'm that type of person. But I'm just giving you honest feedback that, please, if you think that was your best and putting effort in, then you really need to reconsider what effort is. And I really don't want you to take on any more work saying you're a laborer, because I don't think a lot of builders would appreciate that. So I left him a good feedback. I didn't know what to say in the feedback. I just said, great kid, because I didn't want to lie and say, he put in a lot of good effort. So I just kind of said, great kid. I gave him the 300. I swear to God, I gave him the 300. Because he was very polite. In our whole sort of texting, he never said anything dispolite. He was very polite. He was very respectful the way he spoke. He goes, I'm sorry if they weren't good enough for you. I really did my best. I really do understand your position, that how it may have stuffed you around. So he was very polite the way he spoke. So I really respected that, because it reminded me of what I was never like. Because if I was on his boat, I'd be, at that age, I would have been swearing, I would have been threatening, I'm going to come to your side, I'm going to put a rock through the window, like that kind of stuff. But this kid was so polite. So yeah, I gave him $300. Michaela, I hope he is too. So anyway, but the point is, even though I felt that I was in the right, I looked at it from a higher awareness. Look, this is a silly example, but I'm just giving you a real-time example. My ego could have been involved, and at one point I didn't want to give him not more than 150 for principal. But then as I started talking to him, I could feel myself going, oh my God, he's taking the piss. He's sitting there telling me he put in effort. He's lying to me. I just wanted to be honest. I could feel myself like getting dysregulated, and I thought, you know what? He's an honest kid. I don't want to leave bad energy towards me or the job site, because I've got to sell the product. And I thought, he's a uni student. All I can do now is give him the 300, show him that, hey, you probably weren't expecting the 300, but I'm giving you the 300, and leave him with a little bit of advice so he could be a better person in life. and to show him that, hey, there are good people out there that aren't just there to take your money. So anyway, whatever I did, it came from a higher level of awareness. It like something told me to do that, but there was my ego telling me, don't give him more than $150. Because in one message I said, I'm not responding anymore. I'm going to go to Airtasker. And this is what happens in life, that in the heat of the moment, we get dysregulated and we have an expectation of what's right, what's wrong, because we have a moral compass. We've gone through certain things in life, and then we kind of have almost like these boundaries or, these sort of aspirations and expectations. And when people don't kind of live to these expectations, then it's almost like it challenges our own ethics and it challenges our own code. And it's almost like, it's selfish of me to have that expectation of him. But even though it's work and there's different circumstances involved, right? I just think that when in moments like that, there's always a choice. You always have a choice, right? And the more quiet you become within yourself, there's always going to be this higher level of consciousness saying, hold on a minute, there's a different alternate reality here. And this is what I was talking about the other day. I have come to a point where I understand what alternate realities are. And this is, I'm not saying this is true or not, this is just my hypothesis. In that moment, or in any moment in your life, there are all these different alternate realities, quantum possibilities. Every choice, every word, every breath, every thought, every feeling is propelling you into this different reality. So there are significant pivotal moments, there are insignificant moments, but nonetheless, there are infinite probabilities, possibilities, right? Infinite. You didn't have to be on this live today. I didn't have to do whatever. Infinite. So sometimes when you're quiet enough, other options, other choices, other feelings, vibration will pull you into different timelines. And if you listen, then your higher self is saying, you may do something so small today, but that's going to change the trajectory of what happens tomorrow. That little pebble you put in the pond today, the ripple it creates, that's going to create a refractory period that's going to pull in different fields into your own orbit, and things are going to change. Like whether it's a circumstance that I'm talking about, or whether you're in a relationship and you're arguing, and it's just like, oh, if I start arguing now, this is going to escalate, and I'm probably going to get kicked out, and I'll be apologizing all night. Or I could just sit here quietly, listen, and understand that let her express, let him express. Once they calm down, I'll then express. We'll have a good conversation. I get to sleep in the bed, for example. Different reality, right? There are always different realities available to you, but you have to respond, not react. Charlie says, just listening to you is charging my brain. That's good. I like that, Charlie. So there are always different realities available. And I think when you start to listen more, because I think life is kind of happening, right? It's happening without your sort of, conscious control. It's just happening. And when we're so caught up in it, we are kind of moving along with this chaotic sort of frequency of randomness. Things are just happening and we're reacting. But when we take a step back and we just listen for a second, just practicing the pause, just listen, other options become available, and it's almost like different versions of you are pulling you into different timelines. And when you start to master this, you will reach your potential. Whatever that potential is for you, in every moment, there's always going to be a different possibility for you to change your path, your trajectory into a different potential. So if you're sitting here tonight and you're angry, you're upset, you're stressed, you've got anxiety, compared to the version of you that's loving, that's grateful, that's processing, that's hopeful, it's a different reality. You see, it's a complete different reality. It's a different paradigm. And for the version of you that's angry, if you do a meditation or breath work, get yourself in a loving state, wake up in the morning feeling a lot more sort of vibration going out there, well, you've changed that trajectory. Even though it's so insignificant, it's funny how things can change overnight when you're thinking right. And if you've got that mentality and you keep throwing these pebbles into the pond, you keep rippling out with this motivation to always kind of, is this the best option? Can I respond in the most loving way? Will I leave a good imprint on that person's heart? What can I do to really make this person smile? How can I lift up the mood in this room? Like, if you're always kind of in that space, I just feel that you are now like this sorcerer, because you're now dancing with life. You're dancing with life. You're dancing with the currents of energy. You're not just sitting there in this chaotic reactionary state of ego and flight or fight, always just reacting to the world, and there's no sort of conscious awareness or control, or creative control. That's the word. Creative control in where you want to sail your boat, your vessel. You cannot help the experience, you can only try to understand why, a wise man once said, meaning that some things are predestined. Even though some things are predestined in life, I think where your power is your response. So even though you're going through some fucked up shit, or you will go through some fucked up shit in life, if you can sit there and respond with love and find that space where you find that love within you, I think that resonance will change the course of your life. And if you can practice doing that all the time, I think at the end, or at the last breath, when you look back at life, you would have lived this life to its full potential. To its full potential. Because you sat there and you listened, and you sailed your boat into the most sort of loving timeline. And because at the end of it, we can end up in all different outcomes at our last breath. All different, like there's infinite versions of you. Infinite versions of you. And at our last breath, you may be, at this version of you, but there's a version of you, if you would have just done that 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and you started throwing those small pebbles, it would have been a complete different sort of departure when you kind of leave your imprint and you leave this mortal coil, right? So the message is, be mindful of every choice. Be mindful of, brother, that's cute and all that you want, some real knowledge. Thanks. I love you. You're the best. You're the man. So all that we want in life, I think, is when we become mindful of these moments, I think that we can always do our best in every single moment. And when we do our best in every single moment, then we never have to have any reservations or any regrets. Brother, don't you have matters with me, for I come with none. I demand to listen to. I love you. I love you. I already can tell. I love your vibe, man. So when like, and don't get me wrong, I don't do this in every moment. I fail tremendously sometimes because I react. But as soon as I react, I think, okay, I could have done that a little bit differently. And I learn each time I do it. I learn each time I do it. And whenever I learn each time I do it, then it makes me more aware. So the next time, then I can make more conscious decisions. And that's the difference between being conscious and being unconscious when we make decisions in life. And it's nonsensical, because you got to also look at what your motivation is, because at the end of your timeline, what motivated you? For me now, because I suffered from a very, very bad addiction, and I hit rock bottom within my own drug addiction. But I learned a lot coming out of that drug addiction, was that my motivation purely was money, was sex, was pleasure. It was so physical that if I didn't hit rock bottom, I don't think I would have changed the trajectory of my life. I wouldn't have been able to change the trajectory of my life. It's only hitting rock bottom was I forced to shift my perspective and understand that my motivation now is being at the service of others. Because when I left that interaction today, I told you guys about, I thought, this guy's my brother. I want to help my brother. I want to help the uni student. And when you look at everyone as your brother or sister, there's unification between you and your neighbor. There's unification. And I think maybe that's type 4 mindset. Type 4 mindset is one that recognizes the unity between you and another. Because when you recognize the unity between you and me, there is no more separation. There's no more anxiety. We are one. And then once we are one, then that becomes such a beautiful interaction, a beautiful space. But you can't have that with your family, then walk out the street and treat a random person like shit. You can't go to church and then walk out and rob someone. If you are growing in light, then you have to then grow in vibration, right? You have to grow in vibration, and you have to be a beacon of light for everyone. And when you're a beacon of light for everyone, I think that it's almost like, you know, when people are in relationships, I heard Rupert Aspire say this. He beautifully said this. He goes, true love is when two people, right? And this is just in this example. In a relationship, true love is when two egos dissolve and they realize the unification within that relationship. There is no I love you. I love you is subjecting that love to that one person that is then, you know, giving you this reaction of love. Because when you isolate love to that one person and you go, I love you, and it's because that one person came into your life and made you feel love, and now it's like, I love you, and you kind of isolate that love to that one person. I don't think that's true love. I think that's a maybe frequency of love, but I think true love isn't isolated to one person. I think true love is a frequency that you tap into and then you can share it with someone. And when you share it with someone, it's moving through you. It's moving through you. You're just opening your channels to then allow this love frequency to move through you. It's not isolated by the ego where you're dependent on that person to make you feel love. And I think a lot of the times we've got this mentality that, hey, you know, love is because of the memories that we have and that we built. And it's a spectrum of love. But I think as you grow as a spiritual being and you grow in love, and when I say spiritual, like, I respect all religions. All religions are the perfect religion. But there's one universal truth, and that is love. Every religion has love, because every religion will teach you to love each other on some level. You know, I used to go to the mosque all the time, and that was the most loving place. I've gone to Christian churches and I've prayed, and it's the most loving place. Every religion has love. It is the one most universal truth. So my truth is love. Love is my truth, but it's not a romantic love that is isolated to one person. It's a love that I want to share with anyone that is in my space. Well, fear is the opposite to love, right? But here's the thing about fear. If love is light and fear is darkness, there's a duality, there's a polarity, they balance each other out. But here's the most fundamental truth. You can go into the most darkest corner and light a candle and it will light up the room, right? The light will conquer the fear. The love will conquer fear. Light will conquer darkness, but you can't go to a lit up room and make it dark. You can't go to a lit up room and make it dark. You can't do that. So that's why love always wins. Love always conquers. And the people that are living in fear, when they are shined with true love, the fear will dissipate and that will illuminate their fear. The reason the room is dark because the light has left the room. That's right. That's absolutely right. That's a fundamental truth. That's right. But again, you can also look at it like this. If I shut the door, right? If you're in a room and the light's there and it's lighting up the whole room, right? But then you've got this room. If you're in a big house and you've got all the lights on, the lights, we'll say the light is love. But there's this one room that when you close the door, right, it's dark. It's absolutely dark. But if you open the door a little bit, the cavity slider, the light shines in. And if you open it a little bit more, it shines in. So in this metaphor, the light is always there. It has never left. But if you shut yourself off from the light, right, if you shut yourself off from the light, then you are going to be in darkness. But the light is not subjective. It's not isolating itself. It's not subjective to, any sort of biased sort of love. It's always there. And I think it's like love frequency, the vibration of love, like a highest like connection with source. It's always there. But if we shut ourselves off, from that light, then it's because we've closed the door. But even if we open the door a little bit, right, the light will come in. And just like sometimes we are experiencing darkness and we shut ourselves off from source. And all we got to do is just open up ourselves a little bit to receive that light, to receive that light, to receive that light. And as we start to open up our hearts more and more, the light is always going to be there. It's never left. Just like the sun is always there. But the illusion is that it goes for nighttime and it comes back during the daytime. No, it's always there. It's the earth that spins and the illusion of day and night, is given. But the sun is always there illuminating the earth. And I think that our highest potential, our highest experience of love is always there for us. It's just, are you exposed to it? Or do you have that many boundaries and narratives and stories that is stopping you from experiencing that? And I think this is the biggest human dilemma that we're living in today. It's the narrative, it's the story we tell ourselves. Because the story you tell yourself is going to be your biggest, let me rephrase this. The story you tell yourself is going to be your biggest win or your biggest fail. Because that narrative you tell yourself can be very destructive or it can be very elevating. That narrative you play out over and over again can define your success or your failure. For some people, it's never enough. For some people, no relationship is good enough. For some people, they can always find flaws in everything, right? Because it's the story, it's the narrative, it's something that, they are identified with. Now, there's so many different dimensions to this because that narrative, that story is your journey. So you become very personalized to it. But it's also kind of governed by the flight or fight response. So the flight or fight response is a survival response. And when that energy is so kind of dense and strong, it will kind of create a narrative because the instrument called the brain will take that energy and it will give you this story. And then that reinforces the loop that you're living in. And that loop is an energetic loop because at the most fundamental level, before you're physical, you are energetical. Now you can call this your soul, you can call this your spirit, you can call this your chi, you can call this your car, you can call this whatever you want. But it is the most sort of like the energy inside the body it can be manipulated through the instrument, right? Because you can vibrate in love and you can vibrate in fear, right? You can vibrate in love, you can vibrate in fear. In any moment, you can vibrate in these two frequencies that are umbrella terms that branch out into so many other frequencies that you can express. Now, as a conductor of energy, as a vessel, and this is just universal principles, depending on what story you tell yourself, this becomes an instrument on how your melody, how your vibration is played. For some people, they're very just naturally gifted and they have this beautiful energy which is a currency that they play in the world, and you love being around people like that. For other people, their narrative is so dense, it's so haunting that it has dimmed their melody, it has dimmed their light, and they become victims to that. They're at a default of what they've gone through because that experience, that journey has victimized them and stabilized a nervous system that's very fearful, and that creates this loop, and that loop is now creating a narrative, and that narrative is trying to keep them safe as a coping mechanism in this big bad world because they are perceiving reality to be very negative, right? And there are people out there that have such limitations on themselves that they find themselves to be inadequate until they, reach a certain level of success, until they reach a certain level of love, whatever it is. So whatever that story is for you, the big question is this: how identified are you to your story? How personalized is your story? How much does it affect you, your story? And how do you want the story to end? Because that ending is going to tell you on how disconnected you are of the present moment. Because if my ending is to become successful, rich, 5 kids, whatever it is, it means that I am taking life for granted. I am not completely content with everything that I've been given. And now I am kind of projecting myself into a future that may or may not happen. So I'm not really truly wanting to embrace myself in this moment until I get that. And this is what I can't see. Not seeing the ending is probably better because then you allow yourself to be in the moment and just live life in its own sacred expression, right? And that's what we call living in the flow because but a lot of people, they dream of a life that will bring them or promise them more fulfillment than the life that they're experiencing now. And that's because there is resistance to existence. Because it's like this: if I'm sitting here and I'm watching TV, but I'm in my head thinking numbers, I'm in my head thinking about, my investments, my debts, my struggles, my whatever it is, am I present? Am I present in that moment? Where is all my creative energy going? Where is all my creative energy going? No one is really kind of going to save me, right? Because I'm just here, just completely consumed in a prison of my own mind. And when I'm in a prison of my own mind, there are psychological conditions that haven't even been diagnosed yet that we suffer from. And some of these psychological conditions are keeping us in a prison of your own mind. And that prison is the ego. Now, I can go overseas, I can go on holidays, I can go out for dinner, but I'm still kind of in my head. I can't be present because I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, and you know when you can't be present because you're not really immersing yourself in the moment, experiencing life. Life's not moving through you because you're in your fucking head. And one of the biggest things that when I speak to people on this level, they ask me is, I think too much. Oscar, I think too much. I'm always thinking, I think too much. Thinking too much is when you're caught in the thinking loop, it's because your thoughts have built up such a momentum, and the result of that is this influx or this avalanche of thinking, which you're so identified with that is exhausting your nervous system. And this is probably a big reason why people don't sleep at night, or if they wake up in the middle of the night, they can't get back to sleep because it starts to dysregulate the nervous system. Thinking too much is a direct outcome of suppressed feelings, because the emotional turbulence is generating this frequency, and the mind, the instrument, is taking it, and and the result of that is this chaotic streamline of thoughts. So sometimes we try and address thinking too much from one perspective or from one angle without truly understanding that this is a byproduct of the true symptom, of the true kind of cause, right? The true cause isn't, the thinking too much isn't the issue. That's a byproduct or a side effect of the emotional turbulence that is dysregulating your nervous system. When we can go straight into the nervous system and start to neutralize our emotional turbulence, our mind will start to relax. It'll start to dissipate. It'll start to calm down. But trying to address this mentally will never work, because it's like trying to stabilize a wild horse, right? Wild horse. You can't control a wild horse. It is just going to keep going. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. I think is a friend of mine and he's drunk. That's what I'm thinking. So please don't block him. Let him be. And I love this guy, right? Anyway, coming back to this. So it's like a wild horse. Sometimes you got to let the wild horse run free. And when it settles, then you'll be able to jump on it and take control over it. Just like our minds, let go of the thinking too much. Right? And start to then feel what's happening in here. People are scared of their feelings. Because there's so much anxiety. There's so much suppression. There's so much residue from the shit that they've gone through that by default, they are keeping their attention consumed in digital, in digital platforms, scrolling on the phone, alcohol, drugs, TV, work, sex, addiction. It's keeping them consumed, right? Because if they sat quietly and they had to introspect their attention, there's so much emotional turbulence that it would create such a restless feeling initially, such a, anxious feeling that as soon as they kind of get to it, they're like, oh, I'm bored. I can't do this. I need a drink. I need a cigarette. I need some weed. I need to, try and get a hookup. I need to go gamble. Like it's because they don't have the self-awareness or the motivation or the understanding or the spiritual maturity, however you want to look at it, to sit with it, to sit with the feelings. Sitting with the feelings takes a lot of courage, and this is what the dark night of the soul means. When you sit there and you go, shit, okay, let's not drink, let's not smoke, let's cut the shit, me and me, just sit here. And you close your eyes. The first thought that comes up is going to be a direct reflection of what you've been carrying. most of the time, what you've been carrying, what's been happening within you, if you're quiet. And as you start to observe, you're going to see these loops playing out. But this is where the art of observation is a skill not many people have mastered. They haven't mastered this skill because they are poor observers and they have been living within the identity of the ego construct. And when you've been living in the identity of the ego construct and you try to become the observer or the awareness, the gravitational pull is so strong for your attention, it goes back into thinking. And this is what meditation is. Meditation is bringing your attention back into the breath, back into the body, and being mindful of what's happening in the objective realm, but staying as a subject and not touching anything at all. Keeping your attention within, not in every thought, not in every form, not in every feeling, just observing. Because as you start to observe, and this is the art of mindfulness, you're going to see things coming up. And then you're going to see how quickly your attention goes to that thought. Thinking. That's what they call the monkey mind. It's because that thinking beyond the narrative, who cares about the narrative? Who cares about the story? Let's look at it from a universal perspective of energy. That thinking is a dysregulated nervous system that is exposing you to unsettled energy. But people don't think like that. They don't think like that because they're still in that type 0 mindset of me. They're so identified with their thoughts. And when you're and look, you can shift into any of the mindsets. I'm not saying you're a type 0. I'm just saying that's where you're operating from. All the different mindsets or all the different levels of awareness are available to you, but it's where you are operating from. And when you're operating from a type 0 mindset, you are just identified. Nervous system is dysregulated. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of intensity. And then it's so suppressed and camouflaged that the outcome or the result is your thoughts. And I'm not talking about focused thought when you're like calculating what to do. I'm talking about the thoughts when you're just sitting there relaxing. It's happening. Boom, 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 boom. All these things are going on in your sort of mind. So when you start to raise your awareness, you just become aware of this now. You close your eyes and you start to watch. And now a great tool to kind of really practice is to feel body consciousness. Body consciousness. Once you feel body consciousness, right? You can start now to focus your attention, because where attention goes, energy flows. Where attention goes, energy flows. So when we want to expand our consciousness, what we do is we start to feel our body. We start to feel the energy in our body. We start to feel ourselves. We start to just sit there and feel our body. And people that suffer from insomnia, people that suffer from poor sleeping habits, I'm not saying this is the cure, but I think that if they were trained to feel their nervous system and really start to just feel their body and get really good at it, where they could just feel the vibration of their body, their cells, I think a lot of magic would happen. Because I think too often we are in here and it's very chaotic, which is a direct reflection of what we've been carrying in here. And our attention is our powerhouse. Your attention is your superpower. You just don't know how to use it. So it's been abused by the ego construct. Your ego construct needs your attention to fuel the construction, the framework of your reality, because it's a projection, it's energy. It feeds it the energy that it needs. It's its elixir, right? But once you take the attention out of the construct and you bring it into the breath, and you bring it into the body, and you start to feel, right? You start to feel, you start to feel the body. And we can practice this now. And this is now I invite everyone to have an experience with present moment awareness. Present moment awareness is when you can really be aware of the present moment. Okay, you can really be aware of the present moment. Just one sec. Oh, what am I doing? Sorry, guys. I've just got to put my 1 sec. How do I do this? Okay, present moment awareness is when we can shift our state into a state of awareness, into a state of non-duality. And that happens, a good entry point is just feeling body consciousness, feeling the body, feeling the energy in the body, taking the attention out of the mind and starting to channel it into the body. And the breath is the doorway for that. The breath is the doorway for that. So we start to take in some deep breaths. And you just feel. And you can get really good at this because you can feel the contact points between your feet and the floor. You can feel the space between your clothing and your skin. You can feel the space between each breath. Hey, you can even immerse yourself into the space of each thought. In the space of each thought. Start to recognize the space. Believe me when I tell you this, this is probably one of the most transformational tools out there, is start to become aware of the space. And even though it sounds like it's nothing, that nothing is your doorway to everything. And this is what Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about, going from a somebody to a nobody, which is embracing the space, to then everybody. Going from some place to no place, which is just space, then going to every place, right? Becoming infinite, becoming quantum. And this is where creation happens, is in that space. This is where you move out of the way and you let this greater intelligence take over. It's because of the space. And we'll do that in the breathwork, today. But it's the space. And even if you're thinking, focus on the space between your thoughts, right? Focus on the space between your thoughts. Focus on the space between each thought. And the more you become aware of each thought and the space between each thought, what will happen is that you'll start to grow this space more and more. And as that space starts to grow more and more, then you'll get more kind of in tune with that frequency, because it's so subtle. Like, it's so subtle that people miss it. They don't even know that this space exists. You know what I mean? They don't even know that this space is there. They don't even know it's there. All right. They have to really become aware of this space. All right, guys, let's do some breath work. So let's get ready to do some breath work. I've got to try and, I'm just going to get some music up. So find yourself a comfortable position. And I'm just going to, so we are going to do 100 breaths again, because that is the go-to breath work. And just once I focus on negative energies and end peace. Well, it's, again, where your attention goes, energy flows. So you got to be very mindful, because you got to understand imagination, like worry or, negative thinking, not to say you think negatively, but misusing your focus is misusing your imagination. They say worry is the misuse of imagination. Imagination is a very powerful tool, because it's where the law of visualization comes in. And I don't think we really understand how powerful visualization is. Oh, you talk about it here. I don't think you understand how powerful visualization is, because a lot of these elite athletes have visualization coaches. They have visualization coaches. I mean, big, NBA organizations, NFL, they have NBA. I said that. They have these visualization coaches, because they know through visualization, your brain doesn't know the difference between a fabricated thought or a real life experience. So that's one of the most powerful things about being a human, of being in this vessel, is that we've got this instrument, and through the frontal lobe, we can really start to visualize and immerse ourselves in these visualizations, and our physiological systems will start to react and respond in a way as if we